Hi guys! Oh, I need my seat propped up. Hang on. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. Oh, here I am! Hi Heather! Hi
Hi,
everyone!
thanks for
Welcome.
coming up.
Thank you for inviting me. So we've got a great video for you today. Yeah, great video for you today. I'll tell you what it is in a moment. But how have you been, Heather?
Doing well. Thank you.
Fantastic. I on the grapevine, I hear you have a puppy. That's great.
A Rottweiler puppy, which explains without me even having to provide the details of what
Uh,
life is like.
Very smooth, not
Yeah.
chaotic at all. I understand.
Mm-mm.
So, before we go on, please, it'd be lovely if you can like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. It helps the channel grow, so we love your comments, and please, if you're going to put any comments, make sure they're constructive, and we love your feedback and your hearts and your shock and anything you think and your love. That's great. And if you know of any new videos that you'd like us to look into, please put the names and we'll try and do that.
Mhm.
Have I missed something, Heather?
I don't think so.
No. If I have, I'm sure will remember at the end of it. But
It's hard at
yes,
the beginning because the energy starts to creep in from
I
what
know.
we're doing.
I
And
know. I was just going, oh, I feel a little bit spacey.
yeah.
It's like, oh, yes, it's weird. It's sort of, you know what? If the energy we're feeling at the moment, we open space beforehand, it feels like it's a little fog creeping in. It's like that. It's a bit surreal. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So today's video is the disturbing true. I'm doing true
Yes.
haunting of Doris Bither. I hope I said that right. And it's by this is by the Tape Library. Fantastic guy. He's part of the paranormal group as well. And yes, so there we go. We'll see what this is all about. All I know is I remember watching the film when I was a wee toddler, and the film was very scary. And
Was it?
yes, yeah, I
I
think it
never
was.
saw it.
It's because it's based on a true story, and they try to keep all the as factual as possible. That just adds the fear to the whole thing, which was quite scary.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's start the video. Okay.
Okay.
Doris opened her eyes, glancing around her bedroom. It was late. She couldn't see the clock from where she was laying, but the silence around her house and from the street outside pointed to it being the early hours of the morning. Her children were fast asleep, tucked up in their beds many hours before. Doris knew instantly something was wrong. There was the slight feeling of electricity in the air, and that all too familiar feeling of being watched. Doris began to shudder. This wasn't the first time she had been woken up in the middle of the night by seemingly nothing at all, only then to immediately feel like she wasn't alone. In fact, it was a feeling that Doris was becoming all too used to.
So I know it's just started, but how many times in your life have you sort of gone to bed and gone, I feel like there's someone watching me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as a kid, you would go straight under the covers and know I'm protected. The covers are my protection, you know.
As an adult, I've hid under the covers as
So
well.
have I. So have I. Are you getting anything at the moment, Heather?
So the first thing that I got, it's hard to tell what this means, but it was like holding a rod, like a steel rod. It's unclear um, whether that meant like stay grounded or that meant something more to her story. And then I got choking. So I got a fullness in my throat and
Yeah.
it just getting fuller and fuller, like fluid or something stuck in there, and then feeling like I was choking because I started to grab my throat. And
Yeah.
yeah, the anxiety is really intense. It's
Yeah.
very uncomfortable.
One, make sure you're grounded. Yeah, definitely got that. And
Okay.
two, the why is keep at arm's length.
Oh, wow. Perfect.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it more so you than me.
Okay. I
Okay.
think I might know why.
She glanced around her room one more time. There was nothing, just silence and darkness. But she could feel it, somewhere deep inside her. She wasn't alone,
I'm getting that
no
choking
matter
now.
what her eyes may be telling her. Doris decided to get out of the room as quickly as she could. Before she even had a chance to sit up, one of them pounced on her. It was hard to describe what the sensation felt like, but it seemed very much like someone was holding her arms, tightly pulling them together at the wrist. She tried to fling her lower body out of the bed, but before she could, someone else appeared to grab her by the ankles, once again pulling her legs tightly together. Doris tried to scream out, but she couldn't. In the darkness, she could almost make out the shape of a figure standing above her head, short in stature and bent over slightly as it held onto her. It was difficult to put into words, but while she could just about make out the shape of a person, it was like they weren't actually there, or at least not fully, as though it were just the outline of a human being. Again, glancing down at her feet, she could make out a similar shape in the darkness. Her eyes raced around the room in both terror and in an attempt to try and figure a way out of what she was experiencing. It was then that she felt it. A third presence approaching. She could see it, again just about. Larger this time. She felt its weight press down on her as this fragment of a human climbed onto her bed. Doris was helpless.
That was weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've never been in this situation before, but it really felt like um, don't know how to describe it. Even though the energy was say, and the outline was one person, there feels like there was many souls to that one person. Don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
So if there, she was being held, it felt like she was being held by a person, and the outline was one small person. Into that energy was many different energies, any entities within the soul, the energies of it. Yeah. I got also one actually energy was on top of her chest, as if so look as if he if so if somebody was sat on her and looking at her, so it held her down
Mm.
on the chest. Felt like that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, bizarre, very bizarre.
Yes. It felt like I was being attacked going through this. So not really, but experiencing what Doris experienced. A beating on chest, holding chest, like right here, one spot I was held down. And then the confusion came in of I can see, but I can't see. It's like I'm trying to get an idea of who this is or what this is that's harming me, but I can't. It's
Yeah.
shifting. I'm getting this image and it's so hard to describe to you guys what this looks like, but it's like waves in the air. They're see-through,
Yeah.
yet they're clearly there.
I don't
So,
know. I don't know if I'm just going to put it out there whether, because this seems weird.
mhm.
Okay. So if I'm lying on the bed, it's like another doorway opened, but not a doorway to the that's in the house. I don't like I suppose like a portal. That were coming through. Um, Not only being held down, bitten,
Bitten. Okay.
and indents in my skin that will go in and out. Seems weird.
Ooh.
So if I press my press my arm, you can see it go in. So it feels like she would feel the imprints go in, but couldn't actually see anything doing it.
Yep. And Spirit said coordinated attack.
Coordinated. Can you elaborate a bit more?
It's like things lined up for this to happen.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm wondering a bit too if she had any abilities. Where was this, by the way? Do you know?
Somewhere in America.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
That's very helpful.
It usually is. You guys are strange. You have the most weirdest things happen. Yeah, I that resonates with me as well. I would agree. So she was very spiritually active.
And then it goes right to my throat again.
But there is something spiritually active, but not necessarily aware of her abilities, and also
Yes.
the grounding. And it feels like I've left myself open,
Open.
wide open, more so than any another human being. Really open, like there's a connection.
Yep.
Okay. God, that was good. 3 minutes into the video, we're already getting stuff. Okay. I promise we'll try to shut up, guys. Okay.
Like it. They don't mind.
No,
She
they
was
don't.
surrounded. She tried her hardest to let her mind go blank, praying it would be over soon. This wasn't the first time Doris had experienced this, and it wouldn't be the last.
Send us videos that you'd like us to investigate. It doesn't matter from anywhere around the world. I think it's really good, maybe, and not only the dark and unusual and disturbing, but if there's anything that is uplifting, anything on
Yes.
a positive, because we need to work out the balance here. So if you have some really uplifting, I know people seeing angels or
Yes.
miracles, stuff like that, that'd be great. So let us know and we'll look into it.
Yeah. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely.
Despite being such a well-known incident in the paranormal world, this story has somehow passed me by. So it's been super interesting to delve into the research for this. As the warning at the start suggests, this is a dark case. While I will be attempting to not make the experience too graphic, I just want to pre-warn people that there will be discussions about some fairly heavy subjects. One tricky thing about this one is that it obviously inspired the book and movie, The Entity. While these are based on the case of Doris Bither, they are fictional retellings of what happened to her and her family. So attempting to separate the fiction from what Doris and the investigators claimed really happened is a slight challenge. Also, the events before the investigators get involved are fairly vague, but I've tried my best to put together a fairly comprehensive view of the events as I understand them. I've relied on interviews with lead investigator Dr. Barry Taff for the majority of the details of this case. So let's get started, shall we? Grab yourself a warm drink, dim the lights, and get comfortable. It's time to tackle the true story of the entity. This is the haunting of Doris Bither. It was a warm Californian afternoon in August of 1974. A young man named Kerry Gaynor was standing in a bookstore with a close friend. While they were perusing books, Kerry's friend was asking him questions about the new volunteer position he had taken. Kerry was a volunteer at a lab in UCLA. What was unusual about this particular lab was that it was dedicated to the study of parapsychology. Based in the neuropsychiatric building of the university, the lab was headed up by Dr. Thelma Moss, and for over a decade the lab was dedicated to taking a scientific approach to phenomena that most institutes wouldn't touch. Kerry was coming to the building daily and helping with investigations into psychokinesis, ESP, alternative medicines, poltergeists, and hauntings. Understandably, Kerry's friends had many questions, and Gaynor was explaining in detail a recent case involving an apparent haunted house that he had worked on. Unbeknown to him, however, someone was eavesdropping on their conversation. On the other side of the aisle, two women were looking for a section of the shop that covered the occult and the paranormal. Kerry was explaining how he really wanted to find a case that could provide irrefutable evidence of a haunting, when one of the women interrupted him. She said, "You should come investigate my house." The woman then proceeded to tell Kerry that her house was haunted and that the activity had become violent in some way. Kerry, a little taken aback by her forwardness with his story, took the woman's contact details and promised to be in touch soon, informing her that
Sorry to pause it there. I don't know why I suddenly got my insight was this was not a haunting. I don't know why that it would not be classified as a haunting. I have no idea why.
Me neither. There's something to it, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have you noticed as well? A lot of these cases are all in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows round about the late 60s and 70s, that period of time. Obviously, society got bigger, and obviously, due to the 60s and the psychedelic drugs and all that, and they all sort of experimented and then did this and Ouija boards, and it seems like something escalated.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing. Okay, sorry.
there would be no charge for coming to investigate, as long as they could use it as part of their research. Kerry quickly returned to the parapsychology lab and grabbed the research assistant he worked directly with, Dr. Barry Taff. Taff had been working at the university's parapsychology lab for a number of years. Taff claims to have investigated over 4,000 different examples of reported hauntings.
Wow.
Out of those that Taff claimed to be legitimate, he would state that only 5% of them would constitute a haunting. The other 95%, he said, were instead examples of poltergeist activity. It's worth getting this difference out of the way early on, because it frames Dr. Taff's views on what would follow. In Taff's eyes, a haunting would go on for anywhere from a few months to hundreds of years, and would usually take place in a location where a traumatic or violent death had taken place. Poltergeist, however, he claims to be something entirely different. The source of this activity often centers around a young person, either approaching or experiencing puberty. The activity would often involve objects being thrown by a seemingly unseen force, banging and scratching on the walls, spontaneous fires, footsteps, doors opening and closing. This activity appeared to centre around a single person usually, and would often follow them wherever they go. Poltergeist activity, in his view, was not the work of a spirit, but some kind of psychokinesis that a person is creating, often on some kind of subconscious level. Taft listened to what Gaynor had learned from the woman in the bookstore, and immediately thought it sounded like another example of poltergeist activity. He agreed they should go, and on August 22nd, the two men headed to the address on Braddock Street in Culver City. They were a little shocked by what they saw. Taft would later describe the house as basically a shack. The house had apparently been listed as condemned by the city twice, and should have had no one living inside. Seemingly, this woman was living there illegally. The pair knocked on the door, and Doris Bither, the woman Gaynor had met in the bookstore, opened the door and quickly welcomed them in. Bither, a single mother of 3 boys and 1 girl, was at her wit's end and couldn't believe her luck that she had accidentally stumbled upon someone who could help her. Doors had been banging.
Did you get anything with that house?
I was focused on the personal issues she was having. So,
Well, I house condemned, but I think within the house, I think everything it just had a bad history. It felt like also that the house was a gateway.
okay.
So and I think just I get vulnerability. I
Yeah.
get just in terms of the time this all happened. It just happened in terms of a low ebb. So, I feel like now's our time to pounce. Now's our time to pounce. So I get this. Now's our time to pounce. Yeah. Like
Absolutely.
what you said earlier, it was coordinated. Yeah, that really resonates, really lands.
And I feel this woman's deep sadness about the state of her life and the issues that she's facing. You know what? So that simultaneously with the fact that she does have gifts and she lacks an understanding of what they really are and how does it work and what does she do with them. And with those gifts, it's very important to set boundaries, of course, and to have like the um proper steps to take. So there's a number of factors.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
You know what? I'm even questioning whether it is. I don't know. I'm even questioning whether it's spirit. What I mean is, I get dimension, another dimension, and able to penetrate and come in.
Oh,
Um,
that, yeah.
how can I describe it? So, in that dimension, I would be sort of human or whatever there is, or is spirit. I don't know. It seems really weird. I don't know if that is if you're able to do that, or is spirit for another dimension has come in and seems to have penetrated the environment. And whatever this area, it's just appropriate time that it happened, and everything else. Because I was getting kind of
That
confused.
would fit.
I was really confused. Again, it felt like, yeah, okay, spirit, but then no, it doesn't feel like, and it was an actual person doing it. But how? Because there was no one there, and I was like, well, hang on, and then it felt dimensional, another dimension. It's all confusing. I don't know the ins and outs, but
Yeah, because I see a wall and I see somebody looking at her peeking around a
oh
wall.
yes, that
And it's a man.
chills.
It just appears to be a man, like, like a human. And it's like he's watching her, he's keeping tabs on her, he's curious about her, but there's no more to it.
Lab
Yeah.
lab rat.
Okay. This is weird. Yeah. What?
Yeah, lab rat. Okay,
Yep.
carry on.
Mm-mm.
Open and closed. Strange noises heard, and even the occasional apparition of a human-like figure had been spotted by the entire family in the home. But that wasn't the reason Doris was so desperate for help. She told Taff and Gaynor that she had been sexually assaulted on multiple occasions by a person that she couldn't see. She informed the investigators that there were three entities that appeared to be haunting her family. Two she described as small, one was large, but all three were physically strong and were capable of not just physically touching them, but of violent attacks, and that the two smaller entities appear to be doing the bidding of the larger one, restraining Doris so that the larger entity could do what it wanted with her. Taff turned to Gaynor and asked to speak to him privately. While he had heard claims of sexually related touching from apparent paranormal phenomena, he had never heard anything as vivid and disturbing and downright unbelievable as what Doris was laying out to the investigators. While he didn't think she was making it up, due to the very apparent emotional strain recounting the events was having on her, he also didn't think this was something they should be dealing with. Taff informed Gaynor that he believed Doris was unfortunately in need of serious psychological help, not paranormal investigators.
I was going to say, what if, excuse my language, people, what a typical at that time a man thing to say, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, but in by but because they said that, it's because of their fear.
Yes.
It really shocks them, even though they're in that line of work. I think this was above and beyond what of their expectations. Suddenly went in fear mode. Oh, we shouldn't be doing this, and also the sort of um, I know even the 60s, 70s was free love and all that. There were still constraints of um, uh, we had what would we have in our country, Mrs. Mary Whitehouse, who was like education and everyone should be covered up and none of this, no swearing and yeah,
Right.
feels like this and to sort of bypass. I just want to say, such a typical man thing to do, you know,
Yes.
and especially for its time. Um, but oh, that just got me riled
Yeah.
and frustrated as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know, probably picking up the energy. It's real frustration, real anger, and I don't necessarily think that's from the spirits. I think it's from her energy actually of their interaction at the beginning. You know.
Hmm. And invalidating, what she went through and saying that, very dismissive, uh, you know, just a hysterical woman
Oh
type.
yeah, yeah. You need to go and see a psychiatrist. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
But it is the fear. It's the sidestep. You don't know how to handle it. You don't know what to do. You haven't got the answers. Oh, what's the best thing? Pass it on to someone else.
Yeah.
Slide it along. Yeah. Gosh.
The pair sat with Doris for a little over an hour before explaining to her they would not be able to help. Taff gave Doris the contact details to a psychologist who worked in their building and said he would refer her to him to help try to understand what it was she was experiencing. Taff and Gaynor left. They didn't speak much on the drive home, but both were deeply saddened, not just by the conditions the Bither family were living in, but by the apparent mental health issues the mother was experiencing. However, 10 days later, the pair received another call at the lab from Doris. She informed them that she was no longer alone in these strange experiences. Neighbours either side of her home had started to complain about a lot of the phenomena she was experiencing, although not the assaults. This piqued the pair's interest, and the following day they returned to the home. As they entered...
So I'm just gonna. I'm sorry to cut it. I got a sense of the boundaries increased. So the energy of what the home was, it then increased, adding to her fear, and the family's fear gave it energy and accessibility. That then it affected other homes.
Amazing.
Stuff. Not, I think the same, but would get poltergeist stuff.
Uh-huh.
Seems like it really does seem like a doorway, a massive doorway, like a portal doorway is opened. Something in the early days has happened, and it's really put feels like a slice into the fabric of time and space, and everything, and it's opened up. Yeah. Sorry, I know I keep.
Before Doris could say anything, they were hit with a foul stench that Taff described as the unmistakable odour of rotting, decomposing flesh. Doris informed them that the activity had become increasingly frequent since they had last visited. Being a hot August day, the house was baking hot as it had no air conditioning. But as Doris led the pair to her bedroom, where she claimed most of the activity was taking place, they were hit by a wall of cold air. The second they stepped in, the bedroom was freezing cold. The trio then retreated to the kitchen as Doris continued to inform the investigators about the strange events that had been taking place, not just in her home, but in that of her next-door neighbours. When all of a sudden, in front of the men's eyes, they saw one of the low doors on the kitchen cabinets seemingly open by itself. More shockingly, this was quickly followed by a frying pan flying out of the cupboard, rising up in the air before coming crashing down to the floor in an arc shape. The pair stood in a stunned silence. Doris felt vindicated, but Taff was suspicious. They had obviously not taken Doris's story seriously on the first trip, and he was concerned that Doris had somehow set up this display for them. But no one else was in the room. The pair investigated the cupboard carefully, looking for springs or strings that could explain what they saw. But they found nothing. Doris informed them that this was not the first time objects had been thrown. On one occasion, a fuse box appeared to be ripped out of the wall and thrown, and on a number of occasions, candelabras that were dotted throughout the house were all seen zipping through the air. More often than not, these objects appeared to be thrown in the direction of Doris. Taff now decided that there might be something to Doris's story after all, and this began a 10-week investigation into the haunting of Doris Bither.
What'd you get, Heather?
Her bedroom, or yeah, I think it's her bedroom. It's like at the center, there's some sort of beacon of light, and then it spreads from there. It's kind of a terrifying feeling.
Yeah.
The meeting between dimensions and the intentions behind, those doing this, they look human and everything, yet it just feels insidious.
Oh, 110% agree. Yes, definitely.
Like it feels like spirit is still cautioning me, like, don't get too close to that bedroom. Stay back from that main hub of energy. It's like electricity. It's like a beam of electricity. And that's when the fear really came in for me, like, oh, okay. You know?
Like I find it very reassuring that your spirits are like, don't go near the don't go near the room. My lot didn't hear a word. There I am. Oh, they're probably laughing. Um, yeah, I just if anything, I get a sense of if a man is there, it would get a sense of threat.
Yeah.
Uh, um, because whatever entity it would feel threatened by, say, a man's presence in terms
And
of.
they want energy. They want they want energy. I was going to say a certain type of energy. Excuse me, that's not clear yet. There's an image of a hand reaching out from this portal or
Mm,
other dimension. And that may be the reason for spirit saying, stay back, keep your distance.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I get you could get sucked in.
That's what it
I,
feels like.
I don't know how we would, but I assume if they can come into if they can um, oh, puncture a hole to come into ours, what so can we do to theirs? Surely.
Yeah, this one is really getting under my skin.
No, it's really like I don't know anything about physics and stuff like that. I'm just going well with sort of what I'm being told, but I find it's quite confusing and how it's all. I don't because I don't feel like it's just a like we've done clearings and there's an entity in the corner we've had to deal with, or we've had to get the earthy and take them back up, back up into heaven, as it were, and stuff like that. This seems weird. It doesn't. It to me it feels like it defies uh sa- how do I get sanity? Defies the logic of reason. That's it.
Right. Sanity. Yeah, it does feel like it defies logic.
Yeah, very bizarre. Sorry. Okay.
The entire life of the family was flipped on its head almost instantly. The dark rundown home was now filled daily, with up to 25 people at a time,
Gosh.
mostly parapsychology researchers and students from the university, as well as a handful of photographers at times. This instantly brought Doris some relief. It appeared the sexually related attacks immediately stopped once the investigation began, although her eldest son did report one evening witnessing his mother being beaten by an unseen force. When he rushed to help her, he was physically thrown across the room by whatever was attacking her, crashing to the floor. This was apparently one of the only physical altercations that took place, however, and after weeks of being assaulted in her bed, this apparent weakening in the abilities of the entity was very welcomed by Doris. The people inside the home reported the familiar experiences we often see with poltergeist cases: doors opening and closing on their own, strange sounds being heard around the house, and sudden temperature changes throughout the property. The most common occurrence that the investigators reported witnessing was the presence of strange, unexplained lights in the home. They began to see these yellowy green balls of light that would dart around the rooms quickly and in all different directions. Taft described them as plasma-like in substance and around the size of a human fist. Gaynor and Taft could find no source for these lights, so their first thought was that they must be coming through the window somehow. may be reflected by passing cars. So they affixed black poster boards to the walls of the property, held up with duct tape, which sealed off all external light sources. However, not only did this not stop the lights, it actually made them more visible as they were illuminated in the now darkened home. The lights also appeared to be reacting to the investigators in the home in some way. At one point, Gaynor claims that he spoke to a light that was darting around next to a wall. Suspicious that maybe someone was projecting it somehow, he instructed the light to move away from the wall. To his surprise, it did, moving into the centre of the room and spinning on the spot. However, Taff seemed less impressed by the apparent sentience of the lights. He attempted to communicate with spirits, if that was in fact what these visual anomalies were, asking them to manipulate lights or create sounds to answer yes or no questions. But while they did seem to get some responses, he claimed they didn't really make sense, and mostly dismissed them as not being compelling evidence. The lights and other strange phenomena were having a profound effect on the other investigators though, who had never witnessed anything to this level before. Gaynor says that at one point they heard a loud thud in the opposite room. They rushed in to find not one but two of the male investigators had fainted as they witnessed the balls of light shooting.
I just got told with all the men there, they added to the energy, their fear and their anticipation, some excitement, some dread. It all added and built up, added to the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, unfortunately, it didn't actually not solve, relieve the situation. Actually increased, helped it increase. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about long-term consequences from being around this energy for periods of time, like headaches, maybe diseases. So there's such a electricity to it, just stuff that we don't yet understand. So
Yeah.
the longer they're around it, like any one person, for example, who's there investigating for a long period of time, might down the road find out that they have whatever.
Burns and stuff.
Yeah.
I got if you expose yourself to not I don't know, I'm laughing, nuclear waste. We would not be nuclear waste, but sort of that sort of rays, gamma rays.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the ones that are bad. I don't know which ones are bad, but you would find that you would have burns, or you would have really red shot eyes, um, diarrhea,
Yeah.
uh, uh, bleeding.
Mhm.
What else did I get? Something to do with the iron, the iron from your skin, or I don't know, the
Oh,
iron in your body. You'd be lacking iron, so you would
okay.
suddenly become very anemic and faint and stuff like that. Yeah,
Oh, wow. That
yeah.
makes sense.
It seems to shush, 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 shush. Breathe in the environment. If you breathe in the environment, yeah. So it was
Another
giving
thing.
off where you would it no, it would take and give, but what it was giving was not good for the humans. Yeah.
Another
Oh
thing,
wow.
if this were happening to me, I'd be I'd be sleeping on the street. There is no way that I would stay in this type of environment. It's so bad. I'd be like, I'm out. Like,
The thing is, what did I just got? The thing is, because there is now a connection with the entities and her, wherever she would go, they would be there. It was the house was a conduit, but uh, it feels like if she went somewhere else, they would find her.
I'm just being funny.
No, sorry. Yes. Sorry. I would be
I
funny.
was
Yes, I
trying.
agree with you. I would, I would be in the bathtub in holy water up to my neck here, mannequin going under, bobbing
Yeah.
under. Yeah, yeah, everything's fine. Yes. Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's very bizarre, isn't it? Okay.
around them. Attempts were made repeatedly to capture this phenomena on camera. Professional photographer Dick Thompson was in the location on numerous occasions, trying to get a good photo of the walls. He claimed it was extremely difficult to do so with their erratic movements that he described as almost violent at times. However, a number of photos were taken inside the property, the most famous of which appears to show Doris cowering on her bed as numerous investigators surround her. Above her appears to be an arc of light. Gaynor explained that this arc wasn't what they were seeing in person. They could see a ball zipping around. He suspects the low shutter speed of the camera simply created a trail, demonstrating where the light had moved to. A second photo captures a similar visual anomaly, with two arcs seemingly crossing over one another. The number of these photos were sent to the magazine Popular Photography. The negatives of the photographs were authenticated by the editor of the magazine, who was flabbergasted by the images. He claimed he had never seen anything like it, and couldn't explain what he was seeing in the photographs. They would be the only images of apparent paranormal phenomena the prestigious magazine would ever publish.
Wow.
It would be a few weeks into the case when the investigators would witness what many of them described as the most terrifying moment of the entire investigation. One evening, Doris was sitting on her bed. Yet again, the now familiar light orbs were zipping around the room, seemingly orbiting Doris. There were 4 of them on this occasion, and at one point, to the confusion of the witnesses, all 4 lights suddenly retreated to the corner of the room, right by Doris's bed. The lights appeared to be growing closer, until they started to merge into one another, before seemingly starting to take on a shape of some kind. Taff and a large number of the other researchers claimed they saw what appeared to be the apparition of the upper torso of a large man,
Wow.
forming in the air above the bed, right on top of where Doris sat, who stared up at it, her mouth agape at what she was witnessing. The investigators had finally been given a glimpse of whatever it was Doris had claimed had been attacking her all those weeks before. After this event, the investigators were all asked to submit individual reports of what they had seen, and apparently all wrote the events in an almost identical manner. Yet despite cameras going off constantly during the event, nothing was captured on film. The lack of decent photographic evidence was becoming an increasingly frustrating part of the investigation, and film cameras were brought in.
What'd you get, Heather?
This is odd. Something about manipulating the energy of the heart. So the actual electromagnetic impulses was part of their intention. And what is that? They keep showing, spirit keeps showing the heart beating and like electrical impulses. And that was somehow a part of what was being studied.
Wow.
I don't know what that means. And
Life force connection.
okay, life force connection. Okay.
I have no idea what that is.
I don't know
I just
either.
suddenly got life force connection.
To try and capture moving images of the phenomena. But this proved fruitless as well. Despite what they could see with their eyes, the team were having a hard time capturing it definitively. on camera. It was at times almost like something was blocking the camera's ability to take images. As Gaynor describes in one strange incident, one evening Doris started to scream that the apparition was in her bedroom. The team raced in there. Doris pointed to the corner of her room once again and said it's there, but they couldn't see a thing. Gaynor had a Polaroid camera. He pointed the camera at the wall and took a photo. The picture came out, completely bleached out. Assuming it was simply overexposed, Gaynor asked if it was still in the corner. She said yes, so he took another Polaroid. Again, nothing was visible at all in the image. After a few seconds, Doris claimed that the apparition was gone. Gaynor took 2 photos again of the corner in quick succession. Both came out perfectly fine. Moments later, a sudden cold breeze shot through the house and through the doorway into the bedroom, followed by a smell that was so strong it caused some team members to vomit. Gaynor took another Polaroid in the direction the breeze had come from.
Wow.
Yet again, the image was almost completely bleached out, except for what appeared to be the bottom of the door. In front of it, there was what appears to be a small ball of light. Again, several moments passed before Doris screamed again. She claimed the apparition was now right in front of her face, this now familiar outline of a human, mere inches from her eyes. Again, Gaynor took 2 photos, and it was exposed with a bleached out look that appeared to be centered around Doris's face. Once again, once the entity retreated and was gone, Gaynor attempted to take a photo again, and the image came out fine. The odd scratch that appears in front of Doris's face, apparently being an artifact from the team attempting to clean the photo up later. Back at the parapsychology lab, Dr. Moss was a little skeptical about the entire thing, and was concerned that so many of her researchers had been dedicated to this one case for so long. However, she trusted Taff, and would allow the research to continue for the time being. She didn't see any reason why Taff or any of her students would lie about what they were experiencing, but she felt there must be some kind of explanation. Taff told her that he didn't understand what was happening in the house. All he knew was that they were repeatedly seeing things that they could not explain. A couple of days later, late in the evening, Doris called Taff in floods of tears. He grabbed Gaynor and the pair headed to the Bither home at around midnight to find the place a wreck.
Gosh.
All of the large poster boards and duct tape had been ripped off the walls so violently that they covered the floor with paint and plaster that had been pulled away with it. Taff thought that while it was possible Doris had pulled them down, he described her as a small, frail woman and was surprised she had the strength to do this. She appeared genuinely traumatized when they arrived and was screaming that she saw them being torn off the walls. But there was still a part of Taff that suspected she may have done this for more attention, something he had witnessed while investigating other paranormal cases. But they couldn't prove it one way or the other. The investigation continued after this, although the activity seemed to start to lessen with each passing week. They continued to gather data, bringing in Geiger counters at one point. The team claimed they would pick up normal background radiation throughout the house. However, when any activity was taking place, the counters would read absolutely nothing at all, as though all the background radiation was temporarily sucked into some kind of void. They attempted to track down the source of the strong odors that would appear and disappear at random. But despite checking under the house, the plumbing, and anywhere that a potential animal could have gotten in and died, they were never able to find a source. They experienced a similarly frustrating experience while attempting to collect data on the temperature drops. Any time they attempted to use thermal equipment on one of these cold spots, the temperature would read as totally normal. Late into the investigation, Dr. Moss actually attended the home one evening. She did not witness a single incident during her time there, although the team had already stated that things appeared to be starting to quieten down. She was strongly beginning to suspect that she should put an end to this entire event.
I just got uh, it wasn't calming down, it was building the energy up. So I would
Ah,
assume, oh, it's quieting down. Everything's got, oh, um, uh, oh,
ah,
oh, what am I getting? Surprise. So they're not enemy, as it were. So if I was the entity, is surprise the enemy. So literally
okay.
with surprise and having a bit of double shock. So yeah, smoke and mirrors. The entity's giving it smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. There was a vision of, it was kind of like a funnel a little bit, and it's like it went in the other direction
Yeah.
before it would come back. So pulling energy, pushing energy, pulling
Yeah.
energy, pushing.
I mean, this entity or and with is very very strong.
Yeah.
It's pulling not only the energy from our world, but it's pulling it from somewhere else.
It's doing pulling it from somewhere else too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Okay.
And couldn't help but notice that Doris, while seemingly experiencing something, was also not the most stable individual. Her apparent issues with drinking had become apparent to Taff almost from the moment they met her. But over the weeks, Taff had actually noticed something interesting in that regard when connected to the phenomena. Whenever Doris was drinking heavily, the activity in the house increased.
So that's my dogs.
When she was sober, especially for an extended period of time, the activity calmed drastically.
We
This
said
fueled-
we said in many investigation and clearings and stuff, and on TCS website and videos, you know it. What I was going to say then, I just went blank. You know, all the drinking. You know, it's that
Mhm.
vulnerability.
Lowers your vibration.
Yes, lowers your vibration, lowers your guard. Your guard's down, so you're more vulnerable, more susceptible to information, to attacks, to you know what I mean. So yes, it's very. And funny enough, sorry, I've just said, which is why I stopped drinking.
Mm.
I haven't drank for like I used to drink a lot, not a lot, but I used to drink. I hardly drink anything now.
I don't drink either.
No, and spirit saying yeah, it just makes you stronger. Oh, wow,
Absolutely.
wow. Never thought. I never thought of that. Never thought of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. She so made her more vulnerable. Um. Wow.
Taff's theory that this was not the work of any sort of ghost or otherworldly being, but a phenomena being created by this woman
No.
that we simply don't have a way to explain yet. However, Dr. Moss didn't need to pull the plug on the investigation. Over the last few months, Doris had been storing away as much money as she could to get her family out of there. She still firmly believed her house was haunted, and without telling the investigation team, she took her family and swiftly moved, essentially putting an end to the case at that time. During the investigation, a writer by the name of Frank de Felita had begun talking to Doris regularly about what was going on in her home and had struck up quite a close relationship with her. While he had no formal plans to write about Doris's case at that time, he was certainly keeping an eye on events with that possible intention in mind. While Doris hadn't kept in touch with Dr. Taff, she had kept in contact with Frank, and with her permission he revealed to the investigators where she had moved to. Why had she done that, after seemingly moving away and trying to start anew? Well, it appeared that moving had not helped the Bither family one bit. Within weeks of Doris moving into her new house, the phenomena started up all over again. Interestingly, yet again both houses on either side of Doris's new home reported the same type of phenomena. The neighbours had no idea what Doris had been through previously. They were just confused and didn't make the connection to their new neighbour. who had kept her story quiet, concerned that her new community would think she was crazy. She was almost attempting to bury her head in the sand and hope it wouldn't escalate to the same.
I'm sorry to cut it, but I mean, think of it realistically. If this was happened to you, you wouldn't sort of like put placards and go into new, hi, it's me. Yeah, this is what happens. I get attacked by entities, blah, blah, and this is what happens. Or just letting you know, by the way, I'll put it on the, what's it, the tree. What did in the States, when your kids are in primary school and that, there's a, isn't there like a tree link that if there's a problem, one parent phones everybody and what do they call that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yes, well, I'm saying you'd phone the tree up and go, oh, look, this is what me. Yeah, I'm just letting you know what I've done. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You're not going to tell him. You're going to be silent and keep stum. Otherwise, people are going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez, sorry.
Levels again. But both Doris and her neighbours reported cupboards and doors opening and closing by themselves.
Gosh.
Garbage being poured out onto the floor. Electrical devices turning off and on at random. The investigators visited her new home, and what followed would be what I think is one of the creepier moments in this whole investigation. They turned the lights out. Taff had a recorder with a microphone next to him, placed right by his leg. Suddenly, a vase flew off the sideboard and crashed into the floor right in the middle of the investigators, much like the frying pan all those weeks before. Nothing else seemed to happen. However, when they played the audio tape back, they had apparently captured something else happening at the time. They could hear the sound of deep breathing, getting closer and closer to the microphone, along with a footstep, then another footstep, and then a dragging sound. This repeated as the sound got closer and closer to the mic, and then the audio recorder just shut itself off. No one in the room was making sounds like this, and no one had approached Taff or the microphone. Towards the end of the time Doris lived in this new property, the investigators were sat with her in her bedroom, the lights turned down low. They had once again covered the walls in boards and duct tape, when suddenly they got to see what had happened that night Doris called them in floods of tears. They witnessed the tape being pulled from the wall as though it was being ripped off by an unseen hand. Very quickly. The boards flew off and hit Doris in the head. Gaynor, in a move that I imagine did not impress Doris, asked whatever it was to do it again, and it obliged, throwing another board in the direction of Doris. This was enough for Doris, who still seemed convinced she could somehow outrun whatever was doing this to her. She packed up her family again and moved to San Bernardino. Frank de Felita was able to keep in touch with her during this time, and claimed that she was still experiencing the same phenomena. Before the investigators could catch up with her, however, she once again moved, this time to Texas, and cut off all contact with everyone. Taff apparently had no idea that Frank was writing a book about their case, until he contacted him and asked the doctor to help write the final chapters of the book, creating a storyline that expressed how Taff would have liked the investigation to have actually continued. His next step would have been to bring her into the lab and run further tests. To his knowledge, Doris did not seek the same level of psychiatric help that is depicted in the book and movie, despite suggesting she should in that first meeting. But he claims it does really get across the level of stress and fear he witnessed in Doris every time he interacted with her. Gaynor and Taff were brought on as technical advisors to the movie adaptation of The Entity.
Wow.
Which led to Taff being invited to a screening of the movie at Fox Studios in 1983. There, much to his surprise, he saw Doris. The pair had a short moment to talk. While she stated she liked the film, Taff got the sense she was uneasy with the attention she was receiving, but grateful they were trying to help her tell her story and help her to understand what was happening to her. She did not apparently divulge any information about what had happened to her since she moved to Texas. And that was the last time he ever saw her. In the years following the case, a whole number of people have apparently come out, claiming to have been part of the investigation team and spreading misinformation about the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Taff has called out a number of these people as simply attempting to get attention. Meanwhile, he has continued to talk about the Bither case and several others that he has been involved with over the years. Skeptical Inquirer magazine have done a few articles on the case, concluding that while there is no evidence of the Bither case being an outright hoax, there does appear to be a mix of psychological disturbance, the power of suggestion, and poor investigation skills of a group of student researchers who, while well-meaning and seemingly convinced they had uncovered something paranormal, didn't have the abilities to create compelling evidence. Taff himself states on numerous occasions that they were not very well versed on how to use the camera equipment, often resulting in poorly exposed photographs. However, he also says that professional photographers were also brought in, but they too failed to capture any of the phenomena on camera. Dr. Taff instantly dismissed the claims of assault Doris experienced because they did not take place during their investigation. While he can't be absolutely certain what was the cause of the incidents, he does seem to very much lean towards the idea that Doris was creating all of these events on some kind of psychic level. The investigators, frustratingly, never got much info on Doris's life leading up to the events in the house. While they did ask her questions, they would never get a straight answer, refusing to even reveal to the investigators her age. It did quickly become apparent from the pieces of information they were able to get that there was a certain degree of trauma in the life of Doris Bither. She had been disowned by her family as a teenager, and when they met her, she was raising a family in a condemned building. It was apparent she also had a drinking problem, and there was evidence to suggest she may have also been a drug user, or at least was in her past. I'm a little confused as to how many of the children were actually living with Doris at the time, with some sources stating she was in fact only living in the house with her 3 sons, and that her daughter had potentially been taken away. But I'm not 100% sure on this detail. In later years, the middle son, Brian, gave an interview to the writer Javier Ortega. He claimed that she was thrown out by her family for living a rambunctious lifestyle and being rebellious. At a young age, she liked to play with Ouija boards and conduct seances, before turning to drugs and alcohol. Although the interview Brian gave saw him contradict himself numerous times. The man who conducted the interview with Brian Harris doesn't believe he was intentionally trying to mislead him with the interview he gave, instead claiming he was quite emotional about the whole thing.
So I just paused it there just before we finish. The trauma, home life, drinking, just all, adds up to that big sort of negative bubble, as it were. I think she was just there at the wrong time, and just everything, just seems, yeah, tick, 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 tick. Yeah, we can use this one, tick, 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 tick. Just,
Yeah.
What did you get?
So I heard whatever this being was, I heard him say to Doris, "I own you," in a very deep, booming voice. Also, the threats he would give to her, it was like almost a threat of death for some reason. And it was wearing her down
Yeah.
so badly over time and forcing her inward like a shell of herself, becoming very fragile. There was also an image a bit ago of Doris being held, it appeared in the air by electricity, which may just represent the control this other dimensional being had over her. Of course, it had control, but also to take her energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the big thing. And so many others. So, however it or he was able to do it.
But I do get a sense of she did stand up to him, and his energy deflated.
Good.
I do get that.
That's good to hear. That's
I
really
do
good to
get that. It
hear.
seems like I don't know when or what. It seems it's like standing up to a bully. That's it. Standing up to a bully and saying no. I think in the past her energy and how she was, as you said, so deflated. She couldn't even probably. She could just barely probably pick up the glass of wine, and just how she was. Um, Yeah, it's very. It seems. Let's see. So it seems like she's taking back the energy. You said it'd be like
Ah,
she was taking back the energy.
oh, good for
Yeah,
her.
yes, that really resonates. So what she was doing, she was saying no, and that's I'm taking back. It's like taking back the energy. So it depleted. So it's as if it got smaller, 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 smaller. Yeah, that's what I feel.
Wow.
Yeah. So what in
Beautiful.
everything you said is on point, and just that sort of like then it was like no, I'm having it back. She
Wow.
reversed
The flow.
the flow. Yeah, because when you said you saw electricity in hiding, I literally thought they might as well just plugged her into the to the mains and take literally taking her energy as if taking her energy. Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, bizarre.
Hmm.
Okay.
especially when it came to facts about his mother being spread that he claimed were not true. His interview was jumbled and messy, but he appeared to just want to set the record straight about the type of person his mother was. While she did enjoy a drink, Brian claimed that she was not the drunk the investigators had implied she was. There were suggestions that the entities were somehow being manifested through her mind, and that they took on the form of 3 men because she had 3 boys in the house. But Brian disputes this, claiming that these entities were very real and that he saw them himself. This interview was apparently conducted as part of a book being written on the full life story of Doris Bither, but as far as I can tell, it was never completed. Her other 2 sons have also spoken out about the events. When researchers interviewed Doris's other 2 sons, they discovered that Brian had a similar relationship to drink and drugs as his mother had. However, the other 2 sons did back up some of Brian's claims. They claimed that there had been some level of paranormal activity before moving to the condemned house on Braddock Street, including objects moving and the occasional appearance of some kind of apparition. While living in Braddock Street, both boys claimed to witness the same phenomena their mother reported, with one boy apparently being awoken terrifyingly in the middle of the night by being slapped across the face.
Oh gosh.
But when he opened his eyes, there was no one there. Another reported walking down their hallway one evening before hitting something and falling to the ground. He stated that it felt like he had just walked into a person, but yet again, there was no one there. We'll end this story with an incident that the boys claimed happened just a few days after they moved into their house on Braddock Street. I'm not sure how to take this detail, due to the fact they also claimed that there was some level of activity taking place before they even moved there. But it is interesting nonetheless. One afternoon, shortly after moving in, there was a knock at the door. Doris answered it to see an elderly Mexican woman standing before her. She apparently stared blankly at Doris for a few seconds before saying, "You need to get out. I used to live here in this old house, back when it was just a farm and I was a little girl. There is something very evil here. This place is haunted and you need to get out." When Doris asked what she was talking about, the woman went deadly silent and walked away. Doris nor the boys ever saw the woman again. Doris Bither would die in 1999, apparently aged 59 of respiratory failure. If these incidents followed her into later life, we will apparently never know.
Ooh. It was very interesting. It was an interesting video. A lot to think about. I'm not too sure. I thought it'd be worse than it was, which is good.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
It's like every time we do another video, I find out that the world is not what I thought.
Yeah.
And I'm more frightened.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh
so
no.
it's weird.
Yeah.
It'll take some time to digest,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's cool to get these images from spirit and have an inside look of what's really going on and be able to validate people like Doris, the journey she went on, the lack of support from so many, and for us to be able to look into it and say, oh, what you went through was horrific, and we believe you. And there's many other stories like yours where they just didn't get it and they didn't
Yeah.
have the skill set, your particular investigators.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree with that.
Hmm.
And I get mockery out of the situation, not taking it seriously. Terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your views? How did you find this video, and what were your comments? We'd love to hear them. And you know, do you think she was telling the truth? Do we
Oh, that's a
think?
good question.
Do we think she was? Was she making it up? Was it all the psycho whatever they were saying? And was it her energy? Were other people involved? Yeah, and we'd like to know because I mean I'm on the side of her actually. I think it did all happen to her, and I think we only I feel we only touched the sides. A lot more happened that we are unaware of,
Yeah.
and apparently it didn't go. She was still getting attacked to the day she died.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just horrific, absolutely horrific. So yeah, any more, Heather, from you?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Make sure to hit the like button and let us know that you're enjoying this direction
yeah,
of
and
our content
don't
and
forget, guys.
notifications.
I was just going to say, which we actually forgot, and we're so bad at advertising. TCS, Everyday Psychics, we help and we can clear your homes. So if you have any disturbance, if you have any smelly rooms, or
Mhm.
the energy's all right, or you need to investigate. There may not be anything. It could be like a leaky pipe. We can help, and we don't charge. It's free.
Right.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we help humans because we're human. We also help spirit. We help pass on spirit that are trapped here and need to go on. We help them. It's all about
Yeah.
helping each other, and we do it out of love, and we do our helping out of love, I suppose. I don't know what, yeah, you could say. Anything else? So yeah, if you need anything, please send us a message on the website, and we'll have a contact, and we'll see what we can do.
Mhm.
And if you want us to film it while we're doing it, fantastic. If not, we will do it separately, so it's not a problem.
For sure.
Anybody need any healing? And if you have any trauma that needs any healing, we have
Mhm.
Pam, Marilyn, myself that can help out. And yeah,
Mhm.
or as I said, if you just want to give us a chat, here we go. Gosh, I think I've said it all there. So yeah, until next time, where we'll have another spooky video for you. Yes, and if you haven't already, please, you've got to watch Bohemian Grove that Pam and Heather did. It is fantastic, and it blows your socks off. So have a look at that video. Also, don't forget Thursday is messaging from myself and Mary Lynn. We give you a little messaging each week. There's that, and then obviously there's the new channel,
Yes.
new program by Pam.
Yeah. It's
Which is
awesome.
awesome, all about witches and the magic and yeah, that thing. So if you go and have a look. So without further ado, it's goodbye from me and
Bye, guys.
bye from Heather. Take care.
Bye.
Cheerio. Bye.